Hey guys, it's Cherrylicious. I know it's been a little bit since I've uploaded a video, sorry about that, but I'm here now. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be ranking Season 3 of My Little Pony. This is actually going to be a little different from our Season 2 and Season 1 ranking videos because this season has about half the episodes that those seasons do. I'm not entirely sure why that decision was made, but here we are regardless. This season has 13 episodes, and before we get started, I'm going to make sure to link the Season 1 and Season 2 ranking videos down in the description below. If you guys want to see those before you see Season 3, that makes total sense, so go check those out if you'd like. But for now, let's get started. Let's start with the first two episodes of Season 3. This is the Crystal Empire Part 1 and Part 2. As I believe I did in the first two videos, ranking the first two seasons of Friendship is Magic, I'm going to be grouping these as the same episode and putting them in the same tier. Because, like, they're basically the same episode. It's Part 1 and Part 2. As far as I consider it, it is the same episode. Let's talk about the plot of this season premiere episode, The Crystal Empire. This is where King Sombra threatens his return, his inevitable return, because he was banished, like 1,000 years ago or however long it was. So he's trying to take over the Crystal Empire, which I honestly don't know why they call it an empire. It's more of a city, not really an empire, but I digress. Princess Cadance and Shining Armor, who Twilight is related to, are trying their best to protect the Crystal Empire from King Sombra. Princess Cadance has this spell that she's using that really wears her out after a while, and eventually it fades out. So, in order to protect the Crystal Empire long term, Twilight and her friends have to get the Crystal Heart and get the ponies of the Crystal Empire to do this whole fair thing in order to power up the Crystal Heart with basically the power of friendship. I forget how they actually describe it. But essentially they need to recover this Crystal Heart and power it up with friendship in order to stop King Sombra from invading the Crystal Empire. There are a few funny scenes of, like, Twilight and her friends trying to convince all of the ponies to, you know, ignore the black fog. Here's some funnel cakes, you know, here's some fair balloon activities. It's honestly pretty funny to watch that kind of stuff go down. There are a couple things that I really do not care for in this episode. One of them is King Sombra himself. There's a reason they didn't really bring this dude back afterwards, at least all that much as far as I know. Because, like, he is forgettable as heck. He is not a Queen Chrysalis. He's no Discord. He's no Princess Luda / Nightmare Moon. He is not an iconic My Little Pony villain, that's for sure. I think it's just like a call to action for this episode. Like, you gotta do this thing or else the world ends kind of deal. And there's not really any development past that. The other thing I don't especially care for is Twilight's whole journey for the heart. Seems sort of weird. I like the parts where they're trying to convince the Crystal Empire ponies to, you know, ignore everything around them and focus on the fair. The one thing I don't like is that Twilight has to go searching for this Crystal Heart, and it's a whole thing. And she really doesn't go far, if I remember. I'm pretty sure it's literally, like, in the castle. Like, it's just in the castle. It's not like we're going on this dangerous quest to get this MacGuffin. No, it's literally, like, right under their feet. But overall, I don't think it was a terrible season premiere. I don't think it was as good as the first two. But I don't think it was bad. I just think it's sort of, So I'm going to put it in B tier. We're going to put that in B tier, and that's where it's going to be. Next up, episode 3 is called Too Many Pinkie Pies. This is the episode where Pinkie Pie discovers a lake that can essentially make clones of herself. So in order to hang out with everyone and do as many things as possible, she makes a bunch of clones, but eventually comes to a self-identity crisis and essentially forgets who she is, because they all think that they are Pinkie Pie, and Pinkie Pie, the original Pinkie Pie, as I said, just sort of loses herself in the shuffle. So eventually they get to a point where, I think it's Applejack, if I remember. Maybe it's a few other ponies. But they force Pinkie Pie to look at a wall of paint dry, which is honestly a much funnier scene than it had any right to be, because there are a lot of visual gags with the clone Pinkie Pies sort of disappearing out of existence. Overall, it's a pretty simple episode. I mean, it's a comedic episode, it's a comic episode, but at the same time, it is very effective at what it does. I think it's pretty funny. It doesn't advance anything. It doesn't really teach many lessons, but like, at the same time, it was pretty fun to watch, you know? I laughed. I'll admit it. I'm a grown man. I laughed at that. So I'll put it in... I don't know whether to put it in S or A. I'm debating on these ones. I'm debating here. I'm going to put it in A tier for now. I might move it up later, depending on where everything else goes, because I want to balance this out somewhat. Next is One Bad Apple. This is, I believe, the episode that introduces Babs Seed. I don't think Babs came up in Season 2 or Season 1. I think this is the introduction of Babs Seed. This is the episode where Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo, the Cutie Mark Crusaders try to welcome Babs into their little friend group, into their little treehouse, and Babs is like, this is lame. I'm gonna go join the cool kids. And for some reason, the cool kids are Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. So, essentially, Babs betrays her family and her family's friends and her family's lame treehouse in order to go hang out with the rich people. And then there is this parade where the Cutie Mark Crusaders essentially try to kill Babs, if I remember, by booby-trapping her float, and then it sort of loses control, it rolls down the hill, and then Applejack... I think Applejack has to save the day, if I remember. I could be wrong on that one. Regardless, the careening parade float thankfully doesn't kill anyone. And Apple Bloom and her friends learn that, oh, Babs was, you know, bullied back at home, so she feels like she has to take charge and bully other people here. And then everyone apologizes because everyone's a jerk. The end, pretty much. I like this episode. I don't necessarily consider it one of my favorites, even from this season, I don't think. But there is a lot of things to enjoy about it. I like Babs. I like her introduction, and she goes through like this mini character arc throughout the episode, which I thought was nice. As do the Cutie Mark Crusaders, because the Cutie Mark Crusaders do learn things in a lot of those like Cutie Mark Crusader-centric type episodes, and this is definitely a pretty good example of the Crusaders learning a valuable lesson along the way. Outside of that, there were some pretty funny moments where Babs is underage driving without a license and almost dies by going off a cliff. That was pretty funny. But honestly, it's not too far above average. I don't know. There's nothing I can point out that's coming to mind right now that's necessarily super wrong with this episode. But at the same time, it just doesn't stick out too awful much. I don't want to put it in A tier, but I will put it above the season premiere. I think it's better than the Crystal Empire. So we'll put it in the high B tier for now. High B tier. Alright, now we have episode 5 of season 3. This is called Magic Duel. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the more well-liked episodes from season 3. I know Trixie's a very popular character, and I know this is a pretty popular episode. This is where Trixie gets her hands on something called the Alicorn Amulet, which actually gives her real magic powers instead of the more or less fake magic powers that she was using before. So then she sort of goes tyrannical dictator on Ponyville, starts wrecking up shop and terrorizing the citizens. So Twilight goes to see Zecora the zebra, and Zecora essentially gives Twilight a fake amulet, as far as I remember, and convinces Trixie through the power of show magic that this fake amulet is more powerful than her real one, so Trixie is essentially willing to trade them. However, Twilight, it's a fake amulet, so Twilight wasn't really using magic at all. It's just that Applejack switched places with her younger sibling and her grandmother in order to trick Trixie, wow. In order to trick Trixie into believing that the amulet was real. This episode is pretty fun. I'm probably going to put it in S tier. I don't know if I really need to explain why for those who have seen this episode. It's definitely one of my favorites, at least from this season, if not from all seasons. This is a good one. I love Trixie. Her antics are fun, but at the same time, they managed to make Trixie into a Pretty imposing villain, despite the fact that she's more of a comedy villain. What she does in this episode is not necessarily too comedic. She is a tyrannical dictator of a city. And they do a very good job of both playing up the intensity of what Trixie is actually doing, the sheer scale of her tyrannical behavior, but also at the same time keeping it to a level where we can forgive her and laugh at what she does. Overall, I think it's a really well-written episode, both in terms of structure and individual dialogue writing. I'm going to put it in S tier. I know I already said I would, so there it goes. S tier. Okay, so this is episode 6, Sleepless in Ponyville, which is an ironic name because from what I remember, they're camping for most of the episode. So they're not in Ponyville for most of this episode. Regardless, this is the episode where Scootaloo joins all her friends, including Rainbow Dash, which is the important figure for this episode, as well as Scootaloo. Scootaloo has a bunch of nightmares throughout the whole time. There's one where she encounters Princess Luna. Actually, I think Princess Luna appears in a couple of them. But Princess Luna eventually tells Scootaloo, like, oh, you need to face your fears. Because Scootaloo's getting scared by these scary stories, but not really. It's sort of manifesting in the scary stories, but she's really scared of disappointing Rainbow Dash, because I believe Rainbow Dash is a very heroic figure to Scootaloo, and Scootaloo just wants to impress Rainbow Dash the whole time, which I believe ends up backfiring a lot, or like not working really. And then Rainbow Dash saves Scootaloo from falling over a waterfall. Scootaloo finally coughs it up that she's afraid of disappointing Rainbow Dash, and Rainbow Dash is like, all right, fine, sure, whatever. And then Scootaloo gets a mom, or an older sister, or however you want to call Scootaloo's relationship to Rainbow Dash, because it's communicated, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm assuming older sister, because Rarity has Sweetie Belle and Applejack has Apple Bloom, and those are both the older sisters. So essentially Scootaloo, who as far as we know at this point is completely without a family, she gets some, so good for her. Yeah. Overall, not a terrible episode. Honestly, I did not remember it well. I don't know if you could tell in my description just now, but after watching it, like, I took some notes, but like, man, I did not remember this episode or much of the like specifics of it. I don't know. I kind of want to put it, because I love Scootaloo, right? If you remember my old channel, if you look back at videos from like 5-6 years ago, the channel used to be called Scootaloo's, and it used to have a different character on the front, and I loved Scootaloo. They were one of my favorite characters in the original show, and they still are. But I don't know, just not a lot happened in this episode, man. Some of the dream sequences were like very visually cool, but outside of that, they just felt like filler, man. Like, you knew where the resolution was going. Oh man, I'm gonna put it in low B. I don't want to put this in C tier because I like it, but I'll put it in low B. I'll do that. Next is episode 7. This is the Lightning Dust episode. It's called Wonderbolts Academy. This is when Rainbow Dash is finally accepted into something called the Wonderbolts Academy, which is, as the name implies, an academy for prospective Wonderbolts. And there's another character there named Lightning Dust. And Lightning Dust and Rainbow Dash are essentially the same character, more or less. And that is designed in a way that they're both very competitive and sort of, at least portrayed almost equally. But Lightning Dust is much more outwardly aggressive, I believe. Because the main plot line is Rainbow Dash is assigned as, I believe it was called Wing Pony. Basically, she is a partner to Lightning Dust, and Lightning Dust is supposed to be the leader in a certain exercise. And Lightning Dust takes it very aggressively. Rainbow Dash disagrees. Lightning Dust almost hurts some people with a big old tornado. And Rainbow Dash quits the academy because the academy approves of Lightning Dust's recklessness. And Rainbow Dash does not like the fact that Lightning Dust gets to be so reckless and put a lot of people in harm's way and get rewarded for it. So Rainbow Dash goes on strike. Rainbow Dash does a public statement on Twitter.com and leaves. And essentially, I believe Spitfire is just like, okay, fine, don't leave, whatever, we'll punish Lightning Dust. If only that was realistic. If only that was realistic to like any sort of school scenario. Like if you're in a high school or a college and you're like, oh, I threatened to quit, I'm gonna drop out. No one's gonna bat an eye, dude. No one's gonna care. They're not gonna change it just because you want to drop out. But outside of that unrealisticness, this is a pretty meh episode for me. I am not the biggest fan of Lightning Dust, purely because Lightning Dust is just Rainbow Dash 2. Lightning Dust doesn't have anything to do on her own, and while this is sort of a lesson for Rainbow Dash, outside of that, a lot of the events in this episode are just forgettable. I think Lightning Dust as a sidekick and as a character is forgettable. Spitfire's cool, but Spitfire's always cool. I don't know. It wasn't terrible, but I honestly think it's the worst one so far. I'm going to put it in C tier. Next is episode 8. This is called Apple Family Reunion, and I'm going to be honest with you, I completely forgot this episode existed whatsoever until I was watching it for this video. This is an episode where Applejack is planning an Apple Family Reunion and goes through all this organization and all this planning, and no one really likes the organization or the planning. You know, and Applejack sort of forgets the real purpose of family reunions, which is just have fun and be with your family because you don't get to see them very often. Yeah, that's literally it. I'm pretty sure that's literally it. This is such a boring episode, man. I'm sorry. This is not it. This is not it. There's nothing that offends me about this episode. There's nothing that's like, oh, I don't want to watch this at all. But at the same time, like, what is there? What happens? Like, I don't know. I think the lack of like other ponies, other established like main 6 type ponies, or maybe even some side characters. There's not any jokes or gags that I can remember off the top of my head. I don't know, man. This one was just meh all around. This is gonna be the first D tier. This is gonna be the first D tier of the video. Next up is episode 9, Spike at Your Service. This is the episode where Applejack saves Spike's life from a Timberwolf attack in the forest. And then Spike essentially goes into servitude because he feels like he owes like a life payment to Applejack. So Spike follows Applejack around and generally causes trouble. Even though he means well, he causes a lot of trouble. And Applejack tries to convince him, like, you don't need to do this, dude. You know, you don't need to follow me around and do all my stuff for me because you're very bad at doing it. But she doesn't say that, like, directly. But Spike doesn't leave because he's a stubborn boy. So Applejack and Twilight and all the other ponies create, like, a fake Timberwolf attack, essentially. So Spike can save Applejack from this clearly fake Timberwolf attack. And then, I guess the life debt is repaid, more or less. It was fake, but Spike is convinced at the same time to be like, nah, dude, you don't need to follow Applejack around. Like, you really don't need to do that. That was weird. There are some parts about this episode that I really like, and some parts that I don't. I like the ending. I like the ending where they're making this fake Timberwolf scene, and they're trying to hold it together, and they're orchestrating, like, all these pieces, and Spike's, you know, playing along or whatever. I liked that scene. But outside of that, it's just a bunch of monotonous events where Spike is screwing things up, and Applejack gets more and more fed up with it. And those aren't terribly memorable, for me at least. Overall, I think it's an okay episode. I'm gonna put it at high C tier. I don't think it goes anywhere higher than that, though, at least not for me. This next one, episode 10, we're almost at the end already. This is called Keep Calm and Flutter On. This is where Princess Celestia tells Twilight and company to release Discord and convince him to be a good guy. And that Fluttershy should be the one to do it, more or less. And Twilight and the rest of the gang are like, oh, no, oh, that's a bad idea. But Fluttershy actually goes for it, and it doesn't work for a while. You know, Discord does his normal Discord stuff. And Fluttershy almost gets fed up with it. Fluttershy is tempted to use the element of harmony, her element of harmony, the little pink butterfly, but she's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And essentially, Discord and Fluttershy become friends. Discord pisses off Fluttershy, and Fluttershy dips out. So Discord's sorry about that, because he's never had a friend before, guys. He's never had a friend. So he goes to apologize to Fluttershy and promises, oh, I'll be fine, you know, I'll be good. I'll be non-chaotic, except that doesn't really happen. It's chaotic still, but it's chaotic neutral instead of chaotic evil. I really like this episode. It has some funny gags. I'm glad Discord returned, and this is a good starting point for the chemistry between Fluttershy and Discord, especially. I'm going to put it in A. I'm going to put it in A. I'm going to put it below Too Many Pinkie Pies, because I really like Pinkie Pie, and I really like that episode. I am always partial to Pinkie Pie episodes, but yeah, I liked Fluttershy and Discord's chemistry in this episode, so it gets A tier. Okay, so this is episode 11. This is called Just for Sidekicks. This is essentially Spike runs out of money because he eats all his money. He eats all the gems, and he comes up with this pet sitting operation where he watches over literally everyone's pets while they're doing other stuff. And this is an interesting episode. I mean, I literally basically just described the plot. The plot is that Spike watches over pets. It doesn't really work out until he's able to lie his way, essentially, and making his friends believe that it actually did more or less work out. If you could tell, I'm not the biggest fan of, like, Spike episodes. I forget how I rated the previous Spike episodes in season 1 and season 2, but this one just wasn't it for me. It wasn't as unmemorable as the Apple Family Reunion episode, but this was not. I don't know. It was just boring. I almost fell asleep, man. I didn't want to watch it. I wanted to get it over with. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put it up here. I don't think it was as bad as Apple Family Reunion, but still, I'm not fond of it. Okay, so this is episode 12. This is called Games Ponies Play. It actually takes place in the same sort of storyline as the previous episode, Spike at Your Service, because, wait, no, that's not what it's called. That was the other episode. Crap, it was called Just for Sidekicks. My bad. This is episode 12, Games Ponies Play, where Twilight and her friends visit the Crystal Empire once again, because Princess Cadance is trying to get it to host what is essentially the Olympic Games. I think it's called the Equestria Games. And the inspector is already there, but they mistake some random person for the inspector, whereas the real inspector gets all this terrible stuff happening to her. And at the end of the day, they meet up, and the real inspector goes, oh wow, this is actually not so bad. I'll make this the next Equestria Games City. Whoopee. I actually like this episode. I like how it gives more development to Princess Cadance, because I like Princess Cadance in more of these casual settings. And I do think the contrast between, I think her name is Miss Harshwinnie, if I'm correct, Harshwinnie and Random Tourist Girl, essentially go through the exact opposite experiences in the exact same places, which I actually thought was pretty fun to watch. It didn't get boring is the important part. With Apple Family Reunion and Just for Sidekicks especially, they just got boring after a while. A lot of these, both of the D-tier episodes just got boring after some time. So I'm gonna put this one a little higher because it didn't get boring for me. There's nothing too much that stands out about it. I'm gonna put it right there. I'm gonna put it right there, right smack dab in the middle of B tier. Woo. Okay, season finale time. Episode 13. That came earlier than expected, at least earlier than the other two seasons that we already ranked. This is called Magical Mystery Cure. Essentially, Twilight has to finish an old spell by Star Swirl the Bearded, and she screws it up. So everything goes wrong. Essentially, time gets reset, but everyone of the main six has different cutie marks, except for Twilight, I think. And they all do different things. They all do, like, Applejack is doing fashion work that Rarity would normally be doing. Fluttershy's doing Pinkie Pie's get everyone to have fun shtick, but Fluttershy's not very good at it. It's all pretty funny, actually. It's treated very seriously, for the most part, as far as I remember. But in terms of my enjoyment, I was actually having a lot of fun with it. Eventually, Twilight finds a way to fix the spell and get everything back to normal. And then Princess Celestia is born. OMG, she has wings now, and she has a crown, and it's a whole thing. that was honestly like the cherry on top of a really good episode, in my opinion. This episode is very memorable for me, even as far as season finales go, because normally with the premieres and the finales, they go all out and they do these grand adventures. This one, even though they didn't really go anywhere special, I still feel like it was a really well-written time. Twilight turning into a princess is obviously like the most memorable part about it, because that very much so affects season 4. We'll get there, trust me. But this is the kickoff for that, and the journey to get Twilight to being a princess is a pretty fun one. Is it better than Too Many Pinkie Pies though? Because I'm tempted to put this in S tier, but I don't know. I don't know if it's better than that. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna screw it up just like Twilight screwed up her spell, and I'm gonna put it in S tier, not above the Trixie episode Magic Duel, because that one's good. That's a freaking classic right there, man. But I'm gonna put it in S tier. Overall, looking at season 3, obviously it has like half the episodes that season 1 and season 2 did, but overall, I'd say it was okay as a season. As far as like, I think I at least prefer season 2. I at least prefer season 2. I don't know if I prefer season 1 to this, but I at least prefer season 2 to season 3. Overall, season 3, not a bad season, though. There are many worse seasons, and maybe we'll get to those worse seasons the further we go. Overall, I think it was alright. Thanks for watching. As I said before, I'll make sure to link my season 1 and season 2 ranking videos down in the description if you want to click on those and watch me rank a couple other seasons. As I said in the beginning, I know I've been gone for a few months. I do apologize for that. I got busy with other things, and that's my bad. But I really want to put more energy into this channel, put more content onto this channel. I constantly feel bad about it because I did this season ranking thing. I started it, and for a while there, I didn't continue it. So that's my fault. I'm sorry. I apologize, and I'll try my best to get right back on season 4 as soon as I can. I've also got a couple other My Little Pony related videos planned. I know I already did a few that weren't ranking videos, and I've got some fun stuff in the works, so please look forward to that. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.